Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Mess. So today we're going to continue the series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, and of course we have new core updates. There's new cores available, and we are going to be testing some games on them today. Some of your requests, as well as some games that have seen some improvements, because SRG 320 has been continually updating this core, bringing in new fixes, new features, snack support, and all sorts of other things. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But one game everyone's wanted to see more tests with, and it has seen improvements in the GitHub patch notes, is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Obviously this is not the PlayStation 1 version, it's the Sega Saturn version, and that does give us extra things like different areas of the castle that were never in the PlayStation 1 version. But trust me, you do not want to go down here until it's a late game, or else these ghosts will absolutely decimate you. They will beat the hell out of you and leave you for dead in the alley, but it is fun to always get more Symphony of the Night. Now on the patch notes, this fixed some interrupts, and this game could still be prone to freezing every once in a while. Now of course I don't have time to test every single game from start to finish, but it seems like from what I've heard from other people, now this is a game that you can 212% or whatever the highest percentage is in the game with glitches, and that is absolutely awesome. Obviously we already have this game on the PlayStation 1 core, but the Sega Saturn version in its own right is a ton of fun to play. There's more areas you can play as Maria. Honestly, this is my preferred way to play Symphony of the Night, although I'm sure in the comments down below you'll tell me I am wrong, and that's totally fair. It definitely has some technical issues on the Sega Saturn and some odd resolution scaling, but the extra features, extra characters, and extra levels definitely make it my preferred version. But tell me down below what you think of that. The great part is it's definitely improved here on the current core, and this is one of those Hall of Fame first ballot level good games. From start to finish, this is just one of those special titles. The first time I played it, I fell in love with it, and I probably played this game from start to finish 15 to 20 times in my life. And now the great thing is, on MiSTer FPGA, with recent improvements, it's an even better experience all around. And if for some strange reason you've never played Symphony of the Night, I can't tell you enough how much you are missing out. And now today on MiSTer FPGA, you can play it from start to finish on the PlayStation 1 core, you can play it from start to finish on the Sega Saturn core. We have multiple ways to play one of the greatest games ever made, in my opinion, and pretty much everyone and their uncle has been asking for more retests of this game, and I'm always happy to do that sort of stuff, especially when it shows up in the patch notes. But again, if you want to leave a request for different games down below, I will try to get to each and every one of them. But just take a look at the graphics, take a look at the motion, all of what you're seeing here. I cannot find a pixel out of place as far as Symphony of the Night is concerned. All of the backtracking, all of the saving, everything is just here in its entirety from the original Sega Saturn release, and it's a game I've had in my collection for a long time, and I've definitely played through enough to definitely be able to tell if there's anything going wrong here. And I just can't find a single thing in this capture, in this gameplay, that makes me think the game is doing anything than exactly what real Sega Saturn hardware would do. And that is always the goal. We want this thing to be identical to the real original hardware, and at least in Symphony of the Night currently as of today, it just seems to 100% be the exact same experience as if you put a disc into your Sega Saturn. Now moving on to a game that is in no way, shape, or form as good as Symphony of the Night, we now have Revolution X. Yes, this is a light gun game featuring Aerosmith, and it's from the generation where they would basically make a light gun arcade game out of any genre they could possibly find. And I'm not saying Revolution X isn't a fun game, it does have its moments, it's just one of those games that's never made sense to me. How did Aerosmith get an arcade game? It is a very weird situation indeed, but it has seen improvements on the most recent cores and now is 100% playable if you want to actually play this game. But as of the recording of this video, light gun support isn't here yet, but obviously this just is an XY coordinate game, so playing with a controller works totally fine. It's a fun game, it's got some nice sprite scaling, it definitely doesn't harness all of the power of the Sega Saturn because it is an arcade board ported over, but it is a fun time and it is here and you can play it. I'm going to give you a little bit of a soundtrack sample as well, just not the parts with Aerosmith because I'd never get that past the copyright flags, but listen and I will be right back with more games. I mean, the parts with Aerosmith's music are definitely the better parts of the soundtrack, but that's just unfortunately something that can't fly in the sound sample. But from basically everything I am seeing here and I am experiencing, this is just Revolution X, and it's been improved on the most recent cores. And again, it's just such a strange situation that Aerosmith got an arcade game. Obviously, they were hugely popular back then, and they are still popular today, but I would have loved to have been in the room when they were pitching ideas, and they decided to have Aerosmith in a like an arcade game set in the future where basically all music and entertainment have been outlawed. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but it is fun, and it is a total vibe. You're going to either love it or hate it. There really isn't anything in between, but it is a competent light gun shooter, and honestly, you get to see Aerosmith kidnapped on screen, and it just is hilarious. I don't know what's going on here. They're playing a show where there's a gunfight around them, and then they seem to be surprised that they're actually being shooed off stage. An interesting fact, one of the members of Aerosmith has a house in my hometown in Vermont. I've met him like 3 or 4 times. Super genuinely nice guy, but he does walk around in leather pants all of the time, even in summer. Now moving over to a game you guys have wanted to see more retests of, I'm only going to show you about a minute of Panzer Dragoon Saga, but leave me a comment down below and tell me if you want to see a full test of this game in more like a 12-13 minute video, because pretty much every video I do, I get at least a dozen requests to test Panzer Dragoon Saga, so I'm happy to do a longer video if you guys are interested. But this is definitely working on the core. It has seen improvement in recent cores, and I have talked to some people. No one seemed to have put the time in to beat the game yet, but no one's really reporting any huge issues on the freezing front. But this is a very long game, and unfortunately it's not the type of thing I can't play from start to finish every single game I test and report back, because I would never get these videos done if I had to finish them. But from the gameplay to the cutscenes, everything in this introductory sequence of Panzer Dragoon Saga seems to be working exactly as I would expect. The FMVs are smooth and fluid, the gameplay is there, all of the polygons have their textures in the right place. So if you want to start playing Panzer Dragoon Saga today, I definitely recommend it. And if you want to see that longer term test, just leave me that comment down below. Now another game that's seen some improvements is Bust-A-Move 2. This is one of the most addictive games ever, and I'm not going to give you a soundtrack sample even though it fixes some of the audio, because you will absolutely have this soundtrack stuck in your head for the next week, and that is always a good thing unless you don't want to be humming the Bubble Bobble theme song. This is just a classic arcade game, and it's been basically ported to absolutely everything, but the Sega Saturn version did seem to have some audio issues, and those have also been cleaned up in the most recent core. And that is the thing, sometimes you can't actually see the improvements, sometimes I just need to tell you about them, and the audio issue was kind of some missing audio, so it's one of those things that if I let you listen to it, you'd really have no idea what was fixed, because it would just sound like Puzzle Bobble's music, and that is a good thing. It means that it is shaping up to be so much better in the audio department, and honestly, just playing this, I'd really have no idea what I was playing it on if you didn't tell me, and that's always a fun thing. And the other great part is, if you've never played a Puzzle Bobble game before, do me that favor and just check this one out. Maybe not on the Saturn core, but however you want to play it, just give this series a chance. It's a type of thing that you think you're going to play for like 10 to 15 minutes, and somehow suddenly 2 hours have gone by, you're absolutely hooked on it, and you don't want to put the controller down. And it's always good to get these improvements, because even though the GitHub notes mention this game and sound fixes, I'm sure this fix probably improved 5 other games we're not quite sure of, and that's how these improvements always work. But Bust-A-Move 2, so much better today. Now another game that's seen improvements on the most recent cores is going to be Falcom Classics. There's going to be 3 games on this disc, so we're going to have 3 different tests for a minute each. We're going to start off with Dragon Slayer right here. These games are a ton of fun, and there was a decent amount of compilations on the Sega Saturn, Capcom Generations probably being the most famous, having a 5-part series, with number 2 being the entire Ghouls and Ghosts franchise up to that point in time. But the great thing is, this was another game that had issues working and had some problems, and now in the most recent cores, it just is 100% good to go. These are definitely older games. You're either going to love them or you're going to hate them, but it is definitely a fun time on Sega Saturn. I do recommend checking at least some of these games out. They range from good to great, and it's so much fun to have another disc working on the core, especially one that brings you 3 games at once. It's always fun to test compilations, because sometimes you will find that 1 or 2 games on the compilation will work on the core, but another one will not, because they might be using VDP1, VDP2, or different calls to the CPU you in different ways. So let's move back over to the main menu here, and you'll see we have these 3 games right now, so we can kind of move around and pick whatever we want. Ancient Ys, Vanished Omen right here, obviously being an RPG. And again, everything just seems to be perfect. Now, it's been a very long time since I played a game like this, so I'm not sure if this is doing exactly what it should, but I can't see anything out of the ordinary here. So if this is your favorite Ys game, let me know down below what you think of the overall appearance. But again, it's another title that's been improved, and every single time we do these testing videos for new cores, that's what we end up finding. We have so many new and improved games, and on the soundtrack front for Ys as well, it sounds like what I remember it. But go ahead and listen just for like 25 seconds and tell me down below if that sounds good to you, because I would be curious to hear your opinion. Sounds good to me, but we did take a death there. Now let's move on to the third and final game on the disc, which is Xanadu. Not just some Olivia Newton-John song and movie, but also a dungeon crawling RPG with some absolutely hilarious character artwork. You can tell without even thinking about it what the artist was into in his personal life by looking at some of the artwork in the game. But all jokes aside, this is a ton of fun. The combat's maybe not the best thing in the world, but it is real time, which is a nice treat. And honestly, of the 3 games on this disc, this is the one that I prefer the most. But if you're familiar with all 3, tell me down below which one is your favorite. I do appreciate that the combat is at least real time. I get that turn-based combat in RPGs is a huge thing, and I don't dislike it, but it is fun in this generation to get something slightly different. I love these flies here, that classic fly kind of drawing. I'd expect a little poop in the middle of the screen just to kind of sell the entire illusion. But this is a fun title to see improved on the most recent cores. It brings you 3 games, 3 classic games, and it's playing all of them exactly like you would expect it to. And there's definitely other compilations on the Sega Saturn as well, but again, if you've never played any of these type of compilation discs, start with the Capcom generation stuff. I believe all 5 of them now run on MiSTer FPGA, but maybe that'd make a fun testing video going through all of those different discs. You will see here it's in Japanese. You're going to kind of have to work through that just a little bit when you're playing the game, but this is another game that you can just pick up and play today on the current core, and that is awesome. And it's so much fun to be able to say that about so many more games in this testing video. You can just sit down and start to play them like you're playing real Sega Saturn hardware, because the core is getting that good every single release. But that's the current situation with the current Sega Saturn core. If you want to pick it up, you need to go over to Discord on the MiSTer FPGA Discord and go under Unstable Nightlies. These cores, the most recent ones at least, have not yet hit Update All, and when those get added to Update All, I will do a video specifically about that. But leave me a comment down below and tell me what games you want to see tested next, and let me know if you want to see that single test of Panzer Dragoon Saga, because it does seem interesting. But short of that, that's the video. Go play some Sega Saturn. We'll see you guys next time for more testing fun. Bye bye.